Welcome to the Sages of Industry podcast with your host, Lynne Brodie. With 30 plus years of Fortune 20 experience, Lynne specializes in strategic activation flow for cognitive peak potential. Each episode features conversations with leaders who have built products and services that simultaneously serve clients, engage employees, and solve real-world problems. Will you be the next global change maker? Subscribe for the latest episodes, and don't miss Lynne's monthly solo series, The Ripple Effect, designed to activate your flow zone for imagination, innovation, and measurable impact. Now let's join Lynne and today's extraordinary guest.
Hi, I'm Lynne Brodie, and welcome to the Sages of Industry podcast, where I'm talking to leaders that bring outstanding innovations to the world. While you're listening, think of ways you too can bring business for world good. Today, we're talking to Nicole Jansen. Nicole is a strategic advisor, executive coach, entrepreneur, and host of Leaders of Transformation podcast, which is ranked among the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. That's really great. For over 35 years, she has helped founders, CEOs, and purpose-driven leaders navigate complexity, strengthen their leadership, and build thriving organizations with lasting impact. Drawing on decades of entrepreneurial experience and expertise in human behavior, Nicole's known for helping leaders see what others miss, bringing clarity, wisdom, and practical strategy to the decisions that matter most. Today, we're going to talk with Nicole about the change of the future leader landscape. Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks for having me, Lynne.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So people can learn from you. They can understand what you bring to the table and your knowledge and what you see out there in the changing landscape. So when you're working with leaders, what is it that you're seeing changing, and why do you think that is?
Well, I think first of all, to zoom out from leadership to the business landscape, I think one of the things that is changing is that more and more people are frustrated with the corruption. They're frustrated with the profit-centric, top-down approach, and they're needing to reinvent themselves to be able to support the organization effectively and where the work culture is going, if that makes sense. And there's kind of like two camps. Okay. There's some that are kind of still in the old way of doing things, right? Like they're not the ones that you're going to have on your show. They're not the ones that are helping, business do good and make a difference in the world. But there's just a lot of people that are wanting that, and especially the next generation that, they want to. They're looking for organizations to align with that have integrity, that are purposeful, and that align with their values. And so that's something that's really changing, and it's challenging leaders because if you've been around a while and you've been doing, all of us, like you and I are a little older, you get to the point where you're doing things a certain way and it maybe worked for a while, but now it's not working and you can't figure out why. And how do I do this differently? Because I'm kind of feeling like a little bit of a fish out of water.
I think what most people don't understand is that it's really a reverse model. It's flipped. If they look at doing purpose-driven and they look at business for world good, that more people are going to want to do business with them, and they're going to get the results and the profitability in a much more larger and exponential way than what they're used to, as opposed to them only looking at profitability, and people are feeling like, I'm not really, I don't like this sort of model. I don't like doing business this way. If this is your the only thing that you're looking at, you just see me as a walking wallet, and kind of thing. Whereas people want to feel that people are really adding to them, adding to the world, adding to different countries' GDPs, but mostly adding to people's lives. How can you add to people's lives? And when you do that and when you look from that perspective, you end up with results beyond what you could have dreamed of
For sure.
in the old model.
Oh yeah. And they're actually, this is what I hear a lot is, wow, this is so much better. I love this so much better. Like they actually enjoy it. It's just a different way. Once they make that shift and they
Hmm.
realize not only is this good for the people and attracts more of the talent, and the type of people that they really want to have on the team anyway. We aren't meant to just strive and focus on profit and numbers. I mean, I don't know too many leaders who are, well, let's just say the heart-centered leaders or people that are still kind of, I guess some people enjoy it, but to just sit there and just focus on numbers alone, it's hollow. It's very hollow. It's an empty. I hear them say it's like I feel empty and I don't know why. Well, it's like you don't know why, but you do know why. Ultimately, deep down inside, is because you're empty, because you're not fulfilled.
Hmm.
And so there's an infilling that happens in that process, and so it's an exciting shift. And then we have AI. Of course, AI is changing leadership. Okay, well, what does that mean? Are we going more tech versus human centric? No, there's a lot of talk around how those two things go together. One of the advantages that I have, because I've coached a lot of leaders over the years, thousands of leaders, but also having on my show so many guests and so many more that have applied to be on the show. Like we probably have had 5,000 people who've asked to be on the show directly or through a booking agent. And so I get to see like the trends as to, there's a lot of people wanting to talk about AI and human centric alignment, like working together. Some of these topics like we're talking about, I'm seeing this a lot. I'm seeing this a lot in people that want to talk more and more about it, which is exciting because more and more leadership coaches, consultants, executives, founders are talking about that. But from an AI standpoint, it's funny because I was using Chat GPT and I was telling everybody about Chat GPT. I think I might have mentioned it to you at one point. You're like, I don't want to deal with this. And then you're like, okay. You had another coach that kind of convinced you to get into it. But it's interesting because about a month or two ago, I noticed a distinct difference, a shift in Chat GPT. And I noticed it now. It's not really giving you, unless you get the pro version, maybe it's different. And I did have it at one point, but right now I have the free version, and it will bring you around in circles and it doesn't actually give you the answer that you're looking for. Where before it would be like, oh, here you go. Here it's like, I think we should do this. Actually, in hindsight, I think maybe we should do this and maybe we should do that. But then it doesn't tell you what the thing is. And and it's like, so what the reason why I say that is that people are going to start to realize that it's a great tool, but it's not a crutch,
Hmm.
and so I've noticed that a lot more. Even Zoom, people we use Zoom a lot. People are getting tired of Zoom. They're getting tired of tech. They want to have those human interactions. And
Hmm.
so how do you create that within your business and with your customers? It's like, and I'll just stop there after this thought, but there's a gentleman who wrote a book called The Learning Paradox. And after he wrote The Learning Paradox, he wrote a few other books like Blindsided and so forth. And
Hmm.
and what he said is things go bigger, 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 smaller, bigger, 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 smaller. We
Hmm.
had, big earphones, and then they were small, and then they got bigger, 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 and then they're small again, and then they're bigger, bigger. It's just, and
Right. But
so it's,
that's the same with industries
yes,
of where something will be invented, though, and then all of a sudden there'll be many, many companies, but then the companies start purchasing each other, and then it collapses again, and it gets smaller before, and it grows, and then it gets smaller, and it continues to go like that, in all types of ways. But yeah, that it's you see it a lot out there in
product
many
lines,
different aspects.
even like product
Mhm.
lines expand, expand, expand. Then it's like, well, wait a second. we're making 80% of our money from 20% of our product line. Why do we have all these other things? And it's like,
Right.
oh, let's streamline again. And so we're at that point where people are starting to streamline, focus on what's important. That's essentially the principle behind all of this, is that people are starting to realize what's really important. And
The
I think
purpose.
COVID helped. Yes, the purpose.
The
like,
purpose is
hello.
the 20%. The other 80% is like, oh, let's give this and let's give that. And then people get off of the beaten track of kind of, what they're really supposed to be offering.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my mentors, Blair Singer, he had this model, the framework that he talked about. And I worked with him a number of years ago. Fantastic. Just a brilliant man and a lot of experience in working with some of the top companies. So like Singapore Airlines is his client, L'Oreal International. I mean, he's worked with these companies for years. And Singapore Airlines is what the best airline in the world. And so he's worked with all the top brands. But one of the things, and he says this from experience. So he said, if you've got to have the mission first, team second, individual third. When you get that out of order, things go awry. When I heard him say that 15 years ago plus, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's what happened in our family business. So like for myself, I remember growing up and my parents owned businesses. They were entrepreneurs. And when they started a new business, they shared with my brother and I, this is what we're doing. But the priority, the focus was actually on what's this going to do? This is a mission. We're going to make a difference in this way. And we're going to work with people and we're going to build this global business. And we ultimately did, but it was mission driven first. So to me, that was just how I learned. And so when I started in business, that's what I did. So there are people out there that's like, they don't know any different because that's just the way it should be. I know there at some point though, when I started to realize that not everybody does business this way. And when we realized, because my parents are also very loyal. And so when we got into business with people, they always saw the best in people. When we realized that we were misaligned and kind of stuck in this situation and couldn't get out of it, that's when it was like, we saw the distinction. And when I learned a lot on the way up as we built that business. I learned even more on the way down in terms of the importance of being in business with people that align with your mission. You're both on the same journey, going in the same direction with the same values and commitment. And so there's a lot in there. But I remember at one point, after you see this time and time again, it's like constantly, not all I've had some wonderful clients over the years and worked with some wonderful business leaders, but the pervasive overriding business landscape of and leadership landscape of corruption, like I call it, just kind of overriding that, but like that corrupt system, the system that doesn't work. I just got tired of it. And at some point I was like, God, seriously, can we do something else? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it really wasn't a different way. It was doing it the way that I was originally taught, and then understanding the principles so that I could teach it to others what it was, why it's important, and then how to do it. And so that's really informed my coaching. So sometimes when we see things that we don't like, and I just want to point that out because some people listening is like, oh, I see these things I don't like. We can focus on the thing that we don't like, or we actually become part of the problem because we're just giving it more life versus looking at it and saying, how can we change that? How can I be part of the solution? And the solution isn't criticizing. The solution is actually, and you said it earlier, is pointing out to businesses that when you do business, leaders, when you do business this way, mission, team, individual, everything just works better and you make more money and you have more fun and you like the people that you work with. Hello. And you feel like good when you go to bed at night and you look back on your life and you say, you know what, I made a difference, versus I had a big bank account. So what? You're not gonna be able to take that with you anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. And people want to feel fulfilled anymore. Because otherwise they're thinking to themselves, otherwise, what is this for? Why am I doing this? What is the
Yeah.
point to it? It just becomes what I call task for cash without any kind of fulfillment. And it's what kind of what I refer to as the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial that they used to have on, where the guy would get up and he'd be like, "Time to make the donuts." You know?
Like, yay, that sounds exciting. And we wonder why so
Exactly.
many people have anxiety, depression. So as much as there's a shift happening, it's still a small percentage of the population. It's still a
Yeah.
small percentage of the business leadership population, but it's growing. And
Mm.
that's why so many people are anxious and depressed. I mean, obviously we're stuck on our phones and there's all of that, but it's literally like people asking themselves, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then somebody goes off and quits their job and becomes an entrepreneur or travels the world, and everybody's like, oh, I wish I could do that. You know what they're
Mhm.
really saying is, I wish I could be free. I wish I could feel fulfilled. Not advocating you go quit your job and start a business, as you know, because you've been in
Sure.
business for many years. You plan that stuff out a little bit. You can, and if you end up getting packaged out and you've got to figure it out, that's one thing. But you might want to build the life raft before you jump out of the off the
Sure.
deck.
Sure.
But
And smaller companies, it's easier for them to make the shift than larger companies because a smaller company is more agile, like a sailboat,
yeah,
whereas large corporations are like an ocean liner, and it's
yeah,
hard to change and to turn, and you can't pivot that quickly. And
no,
it takes a really long time, and there's a lot of people that need to change within the organization, and it's kind of sifting through who's going to stay for that change and who's not going to stay for the
yeah,
change.
yeah, yeah. And so we see this transition happening. So I think one of the first things is we need to look at ourselves. If there's leaders that are listening and they're saying, okay, like, I want to be a leader that makes a difference. I want to, do business for good. How do I start that? And it's like, I think the thing is, a lot of times what we do is we change behavior modification. So I want to be clear that it's not about behavior modification, because then it can easily become tactics. It's about changing your being, right? Be, do, have. It's the being comes first. It's changing how you're showing up. And that, to me, it starts with knowing who you are. And so I talk a lot about this results model, which is results comes from behaviors. Behaviors is influenced by our mindset, which is really determined by our identity. Beliefs drive behavior. So it's like the roots determine the fruits. And so, it's looking for leaders, it's what they're really challenged with, and for their people as well, but it starts with them, is to look at it and saying, like, who am I being? How am I showing up? What do I believe? Here's a question. What do I believe to be true about myself? What do I believe to be true about others? What do I believe to be true about the world around me? If I believe that I have to work and operate in a certain way to be successful, then that's what's going to drive my behavior, which is going to determine my results. But if and similarly, even with others, if I feel like my people are just there to serve me, or that they're expendable, and and they just need to do their job, and why would I had a leader years ago who said, why do I need to acknowledge them? They're getting paid. And I'm like, well, so true. They are getting paid. If you want their head, you can keep doing that. If you want their heart, you're going to want to acknowledge them and appreciate them. But this isn't about behavior modification, because somebody can put and we've all had that. People, hey, good job. And you're thinking, that's so disingenuous. You didn't mean it, right? That's what you're going to create. That's what you're going to see even. around you. That's what that's going to be your reality. Whatever your beliefs are, that's going to turn into your reality. And then you're going to get the proof of that. That's the way it is. When there's a whole group of other people, like the people that you're having on your show, like you and the people that you're having on your show and myself, and, those of us that are like trying to do good, that we're over here going, actually, it can be a whole different way. And so, it's setting the example for others to see the benefits and then inviting them into that process. But for the leader that's in that, it's awareness. I always say leadership transformation, it starts with awareness, then it leads to a choice. I have this awareness. Wow, what do I do with that? What am I going to what are the steps that I'm going to take? I've got to make a decision to do something differently. And then I got to act on it. I got to actually do it because, what's the 3 frogs on a lily pad, 2 decide to jump off. How many are still on the lily pad? 3, because unless they decided that you can decide all you want, unless you actually jump off, nothing changes. And so a lot of times we have these leadership consultants, thousands, millions of leadership consultants. We have leadership training programs and development. You hear it all and it's like, yep, And then you go back and you see the leaders do the same thing that they did yesterday. Nothing changed. That's behavior modification. But when there's a shift that happens and you go, oh, wow, that's like, I see things differently. It's like you can't unsee it. When you make that shift.
They have to feel it for the shift, not just be told this is what you need to change. This is what needs to change about you, because it really is, it's counterproductive and counterintuitive to what they really want in saying this is what you need to change about you without having someone understand and feel it and want to be able to do it, as opposed to just because otherwise you're just being told you're wrong.
Yes, and nobody likes that.
Right. No, nobody likes that. And then they just push back about it, because it's like, you're trying to change who I am. If you don't like who I am and you don't want who I am, what am I doing here? Why did you hire me? What is the point of all of this? And, I used to say when I was in corporate, and I said to one of my VPs one time, I said, companies go through extensive interview processes to be able to look at and find who is the individual that brings something unique to the table. And then that's the last time you ever talk about it. Once you're inside, that your uniqueness goes out the way and they want you to just like fall in line as one of the marching soldiers and be a clone to everyone else because they don't know how to deal with the uniqueness otherwise. He was like, you're right. We have a lot of people on our team that bring like really unique, different things, and we should start leveraging that. I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah, like me over here. Hello. You're sitting there going,
exactly.
I'm telling you this for a reason.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm like this. I'm just not telling stories.
The potential within organizations is enormous, especially large organizations, is enormous. And the leveraging or the actual implementation of that potential is so minute, so minute in comparison. And that's why we have such a disengaged workforce, because people are not feeling valued. They're not feeling like they're able to do what they really love to do. As Jim Harris would say, there's Jim Harris and Jim Collins. I always get the two mixed up because one of them wrote one. Anyway, whatever. The point is that you get the wrong people. You have the right people in the wrong seats doing the wrong things. Wrong. Okay, maybe not the best. In a seat that is not actually utilizing their capacity and their capability. And you wonder why. It's like, I hear a lot of times leaders are like, my people are not committed. And it's like, is it that your people are not committed, or you're not actually leading them and empowering them to be effective and be inspired about what they do? Because you're doing exactly what you just described, and people will check out. They'll
Yeah.
check out. They're smart. They're smart. They want to be fulfilled. People, what's the book Daniel Pink wrote, Drive, and the
Mm.
essence of that book where he talks about the intrinsic drive that people have to want to grow and to be a better person. For the most part, that's what people want. So give them the opportunity. I think leadership, yes, it's about vision. Yes, it's about strategy. Yes, it's about all those things. It's actually about creating environments for people to thrive and to be the best they can possibly be. So you see the greatness in them. You help them
Yeah.
to pull it out. They may not even see it in themselves, but you're pulling it out of them. You're inviting them into a more expansive possibility for you say, hey, you know what, you're really good at this. Because every strength taken to an extreme, even when you is a weakness. When you see, like, say somebody is acting out or doing something, or they're checked out, why are they checked out? Rather than just judging it, ask yourself, why are they checked out? Is it that something's going on at home that might be distracting them? Maybe they have health issues. Are they just disengaged and bored at their job? Well, find out, get curious, rather than just replacing them, get curious about what is it that they really love to do. There was a gentleman on my show, James Sinclair, and his company is called Enterprise Alumni, and he was in HR, and he was at an HR conference, and he's listening to the same old, and he's kind of like, wait a second, when he looked at, like, because they were talking about recruiting and how to find good people and all that kind of stuff, and he's like, the greatest pool of potential is actually in people. And you're a good example with this, with Oracle, right? It's like, are the people that actually used to work at the company that they've left, but maybe they want to come back, or maybe they know somebody who would be a great fit. He was actually interviewing her for a position at their company. And he said to her, okay, she was going to be like a engineer, network engineer, designer, whatever. And he said to her, okay, when you leave here in 3 years, what's the next position that you're going to want to have? And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And he said, no, the average person moves in your role, in the tech world, that they move every 3 years. So you're going to go somewhere else. I'm asking the question, so how can we support you here to bring out the best in you and to prepare you for that next role? Now, he says, do you think I ever have employees that come to me and quit without notice? I'm never shocked when somebody quits, because they know that I'm there to support them. And so we're having a conversation about it. I don't get somebody who just doesn't show up one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Over 85% of the global workforce is unengaged, disengaged. And that is sad numbers out there. I think the percentage is probably even higher. That was a percentage from a study quite a few years ago. But it's really just getting worse, although the pivot is starting to happen in people really just walking away from those kinds of situations, and people, leaders, I mean, not even understanding why. And they're just sort of like, next, there's somebody else waiting in line for your job, and I'll just slot another one in there. And it's just, but it's bad. It's just bad because they just get more of the same, and they don't get really the desired results that they're looking for with slotting just another person in there. And they wonder why that they have a lot of mediocrity going on. And it's because they don't have people's hearts. It's just a task for cash, or what I call coin operated. And when people are much more fulfilled, they want to give more. They want to put more into it. They're passionate about what it is they're doing, and what it is they're bringing to the table, and what it is that they're creating, and why they're creating it for others, and how they can help others and solve problems for other people and bringing that forth into the world. And if more people understood that, they would, like I said earlier, I mean, they would get more of the results that they're looking for. And so they just need to learn to flip the model.
Yeah. It's funny, years ago, when I owned a franchise, I had, it was very on mission. Some wanted to learn from me, wanted to be mentored for me, and potentially buy their own franchise. And so I would sell them a franchise, like regional developer with, that was the model, right? Being a regional developer, have these franchisees. But before that even happened, it was like they were helping me out at workshops, and they were like, okay, I want to be there. They're not getting paid. They want to be there because they want to learn, and, and all of that. And I remember when I left the franchise system, because the system itself, the material was great. But the system itself, there was some unworkability. I'll just leave it there. And so the irony of that is, like, I remember actually one of my mentors once said, in that, not Blair, but Blair's partner. He said, you can't do a good deal with a bad partner. The irony is, actually, he became a bad partner. But anyway, that was, so, but coming back to my example here, and the reason why I'm sharing it is that this young man, this one particular gentleman, I said to him, I'm going to leave the franchise. Like, I'm leaving this system. I'm just walking away. And he says, I want to buy it. And I said, honestly, I can't sell it to you because I don't feel right about selling it to you, because I know the inherent problems behind the scenes and how it's just some problem. This is not going to, it's not going to,
yeah,
it's not going to last from a system standpoint, operationally, corporately. And so, but like the thing is, he was so sold out to the mission that he had gotten inspired by, that it was like, I said to him, man, I couldn't get rid of you if I wanted to. Like, he's like, okay, what are we doing next? And it's like, I literally couldn't I said, man, I can't get rid of you if I wanted to. And the funny thing is, years later, we're still in touch. And years later, he still had all these, like, training, the flip charts and everything that we created. He had it downstairs, and he's like, I'm on this mission. And I saw some of his material that he had out there. He's on the same mission, slightly different language, his own language, but the same mission that he got inspired by almost 20 years ago now. And it's like, wow, you don't have to, I remember working with lawyers on a project years ago, and I said to them, the greatest compensation that I get is learning. Yeah, I want to be paid for what I'm doing, but it's what I'm learning in the process. And so I kept having that opportunity to learn more and more and more. And I really was interested in the legal industry. And so I got that opportunity to do that. And so when I would go in and I'd be like, we had good rapport, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting a little bored. And they're like, okay, so what else can we give her, so that she can stay? And man, if we would do that, we could keep some really good people. Yeah. Maybe not forever, but for a lot longer.
That's true. Of what interests people and what they want to learn to grow, and then be able to look at what is best for them with the knowledge that they have, even if it's maybe putting them someplace else in the company, and them changing where they are and what's best. But again, they have flipped your model, and they're looking at the individual as opposed to looking at the mission, right?
Yeah.
Flipped models. I guess that's a theme,
Yeah.
but of people, of being more at how it works for them, as opposed to the individual, and developing them out. I mean, there's many leaders in the old style that, like, some people get very offended if someone interviews for a position in a different department, of leaving them. And really, it's a compliment that they've done a great job in helping develop out that person, that they would be considered for a promotion, they'd be given a promotion, they would be moving on. Unfortunately, many don't look at it that way. And that's the leader of the past. That's not future leaders.
That's scarcity. That's
Mhm.
scarcity. It's like you're a trader. You're leaving our department and going somewhere else. That's scarcity.
Yeah.
That means the mission is to hold people in place. The mission is to serve my needs, and that doesn't serve my needs. But if the
Mm-hmm.
mission on a smaller scale for an individual, when they're coming to work at the company, each that that works for the organization, that also works for each and every person. What's the mission of this person? My mission for this person is to help bring out the best in them. And when I bring out the best in them, they may actually outgrow this department, and that's okay. But mission accomplished. That's what we're here to do. I mean, I have people that worked for me. I had one gentleman who, when I had the franchise, he also was helping and so forth. And at one point he was like, "I want to work for you." And I went, "Well, I'm not hiring." He's like, "I don't care. I want to work for you." And it's like, okay. So finally I was like, "What does that look like?" He had started off as a client, and then he, kind of turned into a mentee, if you will, and
Mm-hmm.
volunteer and so forth. And then he ended up working for me as a coach, and I taught him, the business and everything. And at some point, and then I had a few others on that I was doing that with. And at some point, I just was like, you know, y'all have your own ideas as to, because I'm teaching entrepreneurship. I'm teaching them how to grow wings and fly. And so I was kind of like, okay, it's time to fly. Y'all go fly. Because they had different ways that they wanted to do things, that trying to put that into a brand, that I have a mission of what I'm looking for. I was like, just
Mm-hmm.
go do it. And they're all doing fantastic. They're all doing fantastic in their own businesses, and building their little, with their secret sauce, right, of how they're impacting people, the same mission of empowering
Mm-hmm.
people, serving, building leaders, but they're doing it in different ways. It's amazing. And
Mm.
how rewarding is that for me to see that? You can't put a price tag on it.
No, not at all. It's yeah, I could see that. Good job.
I learned from
That's
some of the
nice.
best. I
Yeah.
learned from some of the best. I learned from my parents. They spend a lot of time mentoring people and
Mm.
encouraging people, and I saw them. I saw them do that in our family business, and
Mm.
and didn't do everything right. No, but they were human. But they believed in people. They encouraged people. My dad was not a detail oriented person, and sometimes you got to understand what your people need. So we had one of our leaders, very detailed, and my dad would be like, don't worry about it. And he's like, no, I'm worrying about it. I got a notepad full of questions for you. And my dad's like, I don't want to do that. So that's where it's like, okay, you know but I don't want to deal with that. It's fine, just roll with it, it'll work out fine. But so you got to understand how to lead people based on who they are, and understand what they need as well. But he believed in people, and when they passed, hearing the stories of people that they had impacted, that's their legacy. That's the legacy that they passed on to me. And I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful. Yeah. And I also saw bad leadership. I saw really poor leadership from others, certain people, and certain lessons that I even learned from my parents and so forth. But you learn.
Yeah. The I think what I'd like to say, and for people who have been listening, because at the beginning of the show, usually sometimes in the middle, and I ask people, so while you've been listening, have you thought about ways in what you've learned from Nicole and how you two can bring business for world good? Nicole, how can people, if you resonated with people and they want to learn more from you, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you? It'll all be in the show notes and in the details that people can find in whichever platform you're listening on, whether it be Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, whichever, YouTube. It'll all be in there. But if you could please say some words in terms of how people can contact you and what you can work with them on.
Just go to leadersoftransformation.com. There's amazing guests. I've had 550 guests on the show and just wonderful leaders from around the world in different arenas and that I've curated. So the podcast is there. And if there's anything I can do to support in terms of helping leaders become more effective, build better businesses, make a greater difference in the world, they can book a time on my calendar and we'll go from there.
Thank you for listening to our extraordinary guest, Nicole Jansen, today. If you want to tap into your genius zone and need help doing so, go to my website at lynnebrodie.com. That's LYNNEBRODIE.com to get my contact information. I'm known for activating in you a new model of leadership. Please subscribe, like, and share with others, and listen to my monthly, well, it's more than monthly, it's becoming a series in so far in Future Leaders, in the Ripple Effect, designed to activate your personal power out to the world. Thanks for listening, and thanks again, Nicole.
Thank you for listening to the Sages of Industry podcast with Lynne Brodie. If this episode sparked new thinking, take one action today. Identify a single opportunity within your business to better serve clients, engage your team, and create measurable impact. Then move it forward. For more conversations with leaders building businesses for world good, subscribe and share this episode with a colleague or peer. And if you're ready to accelerate performance through strategic activation flow for yourself or your team, connect with Lynne to start the conversation. Until next time, lead, build, and execute with impact.